Hi, my name is Greg Santor. I am the practice leader for the sports leadership practice at Witt Kiefer, a national search firm. We work doing searches for athletic directors, coaches, and also outside of athletics. Today I am here with Marie Tuite, who is the athletic director at San Jose State, and Scott Wetherbee, who is the athletic director at Eastern Michigan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Before we go any further, I'd like you to kind of give a little background on how long you've been there and where you've come from, if you wouldn't mind, please.
I've been at San Jose State for 8 years now. In 2010, was hired as the deputy director. Spent a little bit of time in 2012 as the interim athletics director. Went back to my deputy director role, and then this past May, I was named the athletics director.
Great, thank you.
So my background, I've actually been at Eastern Michigan 6 months yesterday. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. But before that, prior to that, I was a senior associate AD at Mississippi State under Scott Strickland. Actually, when he left to go to Florida, I was named interim athletic director there for about 3 weeks before John Cohen came on board. So, and then prior to that, I was at East Carolina for 10 years.
Great.
So it's kind of my background. But I've also been out west as well. So.
Actually, Scott met his wife at San Jose State.
Yeah. So I'm a big
like
fan
that.
of San Jose State.
Well, and
Yep.
you know, I did my undergrad and my graduate work at Central Michigan University, which is in the Mid-American Conference. So, except when the Chippewas are playing Eastern, I'm going to be cheering for the green and white. Otherwise, I hope the Chips smash.
There you go. I got you.
Just FYI. Yeah.
Well, the topic we're going to discuss today is managing personalities. And in athletics, we have the coaches, the administrative staff, the donor base, the alumni, the fans. All of them have different intricacies and how they're handled. And we just kind of want to get your take on how you handle some of those things. So I'll throw this first question out to both of you. How do your communication styles change when you're speaking to each different groups?
Ladies first.
Thank you. Well, when you're dealing with coaches and staff, I'm not so sure my style changes a whole lot. I think that the people that I have an opportunity to work with in the department probably appreciate that I've got a pretty consistent personality. I think it's to my benefit, since I've been at San Jose State, that people know me, they know how I respond. So I don't think it changes a whole lot. Now, when you're dealing with donors, or you're dealing with media, or dealing with other individuals, perhaps it does change based upon the situation, based upon the conversation. But I would think that for the most part, I'm pretty consistent in my communication style.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. It's been interesting coming in and not being at an institution, and your coaches don't know what kind of manager or leader I'm going to be. And they're thinking Heather's still in that position, and they had a different dynamic than what we'll have, and we can kind of start over and have start our own relationship. And so I have to learn what is effective for one coach might not be effective for another, and you learn those personalities. You figure that out. You do that with your senior staff as well. You have to do that with campus as well. You know, there are, we're dealing with provosts and general counsel, and you're trying to get to deans and others to have them embrace athletics and make it be a part of that. So you've got to learn different personalities, what makes them tick, what doesn't. And then I give them a lot of love. I try to show support and show that athletics is just an extension of our university. And I think that's gone over well, and I make sure our coaches understand that that's a mission of ours as well. So that's my communication with them can vary depending on personality types. But again, you try to stay very consistent. I don't get very high, I don't get very low, and my door is always open to have those conversations.
Gotcha. Well, as a follow-up to that, what do you do when you see clashing personalities within your department, which happens a lot? There's clashing personalities sometimes, not only within your department, but with other departments. I mean, how do you approach those situations?
Yeah, I would say that within the type of personality I have, and it's open, I let people speak freely, but also know that they have to be respectful of the other, even if they're opposing views. And I want that. I want to hear different sides to make sure that I'm making an informed decision if it comes to where we can't make a group decision on some things. You're going to have that, and that's a good thing. Now, there are times where you may have to come to the side and have a meeting with them and say, hey, I realize you guys might not get along. You're a valuable asset. He or she's a valuable asset. Let them get their word in, but you also need to as well. And but it's important. At times, you need to go to them before a big meeting and say, I don't need you to be shy. I need you to speak up. Or vice versa. Hey, be respectful of so-and-so because, you know, they may have a stronger voice at the table, but I'm listening to everybody.
And I think if we all thought alike and looked alike and talked alike, I think, first of all, I think I'd be pretty bored in about 2 seconds. But I think it would be harder to move San Jose State's program forward. So I think the debate that you have, whether it's with your senior staff or with your coaches, is a healthy one. And I think it's important that coaches and staff feel safe to disagree or to show the other side of a situation. But, you know, I agree with Scott. You've got to come to the table with, you know, respect 101 and honor. And you have to also recognize you have to honor their truth, even if you may not believe it or agree with it, that's how that particular person is thinking about the issue that you are discussing. So, and I also agree with Scott. You know, it's amazing to me sometimes how I'll be in a certain position regarding a decision and then get input from my senior staff or from others and then get swayed or start looking at something differently. And I think that's how we grow professionally. That's how we become stronger leaders, is to accept the opinions and the differences of others.
Gotcha.
And I think when you do that too, you may make a decision that was not popular by somebody. You have that conversation of why it actually came to be. So they realize this isn't a personal decision against just because you felt strongly about it. We had to ultimately make a decision that's best for our department or for our university, and that they can't take that personally in those regards. And so you have that happen at times.
I mean, the interesting thing about dealing with coaches or any group, there's definitely a difference in the group dynamics when they're together, and then when you have to deal with them individually. You know, when we're looking for athletic directors, we're always assessing their ability to, number one, their self-awareness, because that helps you look at other people in the same way. And number two, the ability to assess a situation. So, you know, when you see the group dynamics not going the direction that you want sometimes, and it can snowball very quickly, as you guys know. What's your approach to handling those situations? Do you kind of put it to an end and try to handle it separately, or do you figure out how to handle the group, or both?
Well, I do think you're correct. When you're at a head coaches meeting, how coaches interact with each other may be very different than when you're one-on-one with a coach. But, you know, I think Scott would agree that the sooner you diffuse a situation, and you can tell pretty quickly if it's not going right or if the conversation's not going well, and make a comment about, let's talk about that after the meeting, or as you're leading the conversation, you can steer it to a way where, you know, you don't have these combustible situations. I also think, as Scott was saying, I mean, for the most part, we try to say yes. You know, we try to be very positive, glasses half full sort of situations. And so when you do find yourself in those difficult conversations in a large group, I think it is up to the leader of the group to diffuse it so that you can take it off-site or take it at another time to sort of decipher what exactly are the issues.
And I would say, you know, I think of situations where if it's something that's not going to change, yet we're bickering or complaining or talking about it, then it's like, look, let's move past this and let's come up with what we're doing moving forward. It's not going to change that we're no longer going to have this. This is not going to happen. Let's move forward. And so it just depends on what the topic is. And you're right. You can get in a coaches meeting, bring up something. We talk about transfers, and then all of a sudden you've got 8 different opinions. And so then at times it's like, you know what? Why don't you shoot me a note individually or come meet with me? We'll talk about each area to kind of see, so I can make an informed decision on how we want to vote on something, or if we need to put legislation forward, those types of things. You know, you have that, and I would rather not have everybody get all riled up. I'd rather say, you know what, we'll put that one to a side. Let's move on so we can kind of stay on topic. Your time's valuable, my time's valuable, and then we'll try to circle back to those and make decisions.
Gotcha. So using those same principles of communication and how do you handle different groups, donors, alumni, parents, I mean, that's a constituency that's important. that has influence, that want to have a say, sometimes maybe all not that reasonable in their expectations. How do you handle those situations, and how do you help your coaches handle those situations? Because now your coaches are actually trying to figure out the same communication style that they need to have with these groups. How do you do that?
Yeah, for me this has been a learning piece for me, because I've had parents reach out, and how I treat them is how I would want to be treated. And sometimes I'm almost too nice. I'm one of those, if somebody sends me something within 24 hours, I'm going to respond. And you need to sometimes gather input to get background. I've only been there 6 months, but this has been an ongoing issue, and I don't know all the background. Right. So I'll get back to you, or I'll let you know. But you're always trying to, again, I try to put myself in their shoes and where they're trying to come from. How are they trying to communicate? If it's something on the negative side. On the donor side, I enjoy that they care. Okay, I'm trying to, I don't necessarily want to have to talk to every donor and listen to whether you like one of my coaches or don't like what happened, or whatever the topic may be. But typically what I have found is the door is open, and it's usually a negative coming in, not a positive. So people are usually reaching out because they've had an issue with a coach, they've had an issue with whether it's abuse, or we've had donors call about something else. It's not usually positive. So then you just got to figure out, how am I going to best communicate? And again, I treat them as I would want to be treated. That's the way I look at it.
In management, they say you've got your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, and your 4s. And so your 1s, as an athletic director, would be, your president and your provost and football coach. Key stakeholders. And certainly your major donors, fall into that number 1 category. If you as an athletic director are spending a lot of time with your 4s, you're probably not going to be an athletics director very long. Someone's got to deal with your 4s because they're crucial, to the athletics department. But you have to manage those donors that care deeply about your efforts. And I think, and again, a little bit different situation for me since I've been there 8 years, the more the donors align with your own core values and the mission of the athletics department, and even maybe more importantly with the mission of the university, the more in line they are to understand the decisions you make. And but you've got to spend considerable time with those, again, ones that are sort of stakeholders. It's interesting when you talk about parents, because I agree with Scott. I'm a parent myself, and I'll tell coaches, don't get mad at parents for being parents. They're parents, but I've worked for people where they won't talk to parents. These are adults that we're dealing with, and they need to navigate through whatever situation. I actually take the calls from parents because to be honest with you, I don't want the parent calling the president's office or calling somewhere else. And Scott's right. It's usually not, they're usually not calling you just to say you're doing a really great job. They're calling you because they have an issue with their son and daughter. And so I take considerable time trying to navigate through that situation. You just can't, as an athletic director, react to what they tell you until you have an opportunity to hear the other side of the story. And, there are 2 sides to every situation. So, but parents, I don't get a ton of calls from them, but I pretty much drop what I'm doing. If a parent calls, or, if a student athlete walks into the office, almost always drop pretty much everything that we're doing, because they're really important constituencies.
Gotcha. I guess lastly, we've been talking a lot about the constituency within the university or the college, which is the coaches, the staff, the faculty. A lot of parts of communication are media relations, because you want to control the message that's getting out, especially if you have big games coming up, or if you have a bad event on campus, especially within athletics. This is what happens now. Social media has changed the way we communicate. Everybody knows everything very quickly. How do you handle that external communication? Do you have people within your department to do that, or are you brought up to speed and then you handle the media? And I know every situation is different, but in general, how do you like to handle that?
Yeah, we have it where I like to have a hybrid, because we have a media relations department, but we don't have a big staff. And I was very fortunate at Mississippi State. We had a lot bigger staff, and you could assign different ones and have social media out there. Well, you take your marketing department and your media relations and tell them you're both, our marketing people have to be on their phones getting video, because that's what people are used to, even if it's just something quick. and we allow them the opportunity to post stuff for us, whether it is a student or assistant marketing director. And we need them to communicate on what is our message is going to be, what are we looking for to get out there to help grow our brand and do that and promote our events and games. So we work together. We have an external. Andy does a great job. I just hired from Texas Tech. He oversees all of our external, and his job is to pull together our media relations and video and our marketing department. So we're all on the same page. They meet weekly to build out the plan for the week and the following week. Look ahead, look back at what we did last week, what worked, what didn't work. To be able to communicate those out, whether it's email, social media, in that regard.
Well, and technology has changed everything. I don't even know if there is media relations anymore, or the old sort of format and press releases and websites, because now just about everyone is getting all their information from their phone. And so how do you message the athletics department and the things that are happening there, and Twitter accounts, and everything from YouTube, even Facebook, and all the many ways that you have to sort of send your message. And I agree with Scott too. It's not just located in that hub of media relations anymore. Lots of people have social media directors, and it comes out of marketing, it comes out of promotion. But what you were saying about you controlling the message is really, really important, because then it's your message as opposed to someone else controlling the message. But I think it's one of the, when you look at technology and branding, and over the last 10 years from athletics has just been an incredible change in the way we look at how we do that compared to 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. And my sense is it's going to be much different 5 or 10 years from now.
Right.
It's getting the word out faster, but it's actually become cheaper when you look at how much you're spending on it, like a billboard and print ads. We don't do that anymore. We go, and then we actually can determine click rates. We can get data. We can find out, did this call to action actually work? Did it help us sell tickets? You can actually track that, where I can't do that with a billboard. I can't do that in a print advertisement. So that's I guess the good side about it, and you're getting things out, but there's so much of it is the challenge. You're fighting a space, and I'm in a unique situation with Michigan, Michigan State, Central Michigan, Toledo, Bowling Green. We're all within an hour and a half of each other. Michigan's 7 minutes away, so it's a unique challenge there as well.
Right. Well, I want to thank you both again, Marie Tuite and Scott Wetherbee. My name is Greg Santor. We're here for ADU. Thank you.